Hey everybody, it's Cass and Court TV. It's your girl, Miss Public Info, here with the latest and greatest and sometimes hated updates of the most high-profile cases going on around the country. Today, it's Friday. Thank God we made it. All of that. But let's talk about Sean Diddy Combs. Yes, we are back in the fray on him because his attorneys have been making the media rounds. They are very much on a press tour in the aftermath of Diddy's last bail denial. They from Mark Agnafilio to Ashley Shapiro and Miss Westmoreland, they have all done a plethora of interviews ranging from CNN to Business Insider to TMZ to you name it. They have been talking to everyone. Well, this afternoon, Business Insider is reporting that in an effort to avoid prison time, Sean Combs is has aspirations to become a domestic abuse counselor. Now, this exclusive from Business Insider came out about 2 hours ago. We've linked the story in the description in case you want to see it for yourself. But in terms of becoming a domestic abuse counselor, Sean Combs says that he plans to propose this to the court. His attorneys are saying that this is Ashley Shapiro speaking on his behalf, and she is saying that he hopes to become an anti-violence advocate. She's exclusively told the Business Insider. She goes on to say that that this is something that he actively wants to pursue in the future. She said in the interview that he wants to work with domestic violence programs to help in whatever way he can to kind of encourage other people not to do this and really to help in positive ways in the future, end quote. The idea is that he would work with programs and be able to go in and talk to people, to the youth, talk to others, and about the issue in a proactive way, and be an advocate for this. And sometimes people like him can be the best spokesperson to try and help. Shapiro also said that Combs' legal team plans to include these arguments in his sentencing related court filings. So during the sentencing hearing or prior, probably filing it prior to the sentencing hearing where they give their recommendations for their 21 to 23-month sentencing plea that they're going to give to the judge. They'll probably include it in that. She said that Combs will request a sentence of time served, meaning that the time he has spent in jail awaiting trial and sentence would be basically the time he spends behind bars. Now, let's talk about this because Sean Combs' attorneys are kind of all saying different things. Let's just start with this piece of news. Number one, I'm a little bit confused how someone is going to be an effective domestic violence or anti-abuse counselor when they haven't admitted the wrong that they've done. Sean Combs' attorneys have been fiercely saying that he was provoked into violence by these women, that, what he was doing wasn't SEX trafficking, that any of the violence that he did during this time was provocation from someone else, that he wasn't solely responsible. He's flat out denied the violence that he was accused of as it relates to holding the young lady over the balcony. He's flatly denied the violence of the Kid Cudi incident. He couldn't deny the Cassie of it all, but said again that he was provoked. So I'm not sure that you're the right spokesperson, that he's the right spokesperson, because in order to actually counsel people who have these really big problems, he has to first admit that he has a problem, which, according to the court and what they said in the bail hearing, that he hasn't done that. He's missing it. He continues to miss it. The thing that Judge Submaranian said in the bail denial filing this past week, or last week rather, earlier this week, excuse me, was the fact that Sean Combs has not met the burden of proof. He's not shown that he's trying to change. He's not shown that he is changing. Now coming up with, oh, well, I want to be a domestic violence counselor or a domestic abuse counselor isn't you changing. That's you saying that you want to help people who have this problem, but you're not saying that you yourself have the problem. You've not admitted to the issue, sir. You continue to miss it and pass the buck to someone else, that you were provoked by someone else. That came straight from the 62-page filing that his defense attorney, defense team filed just a week ago. They're the ones that said that. His side is saying that. So the defense team is not really fully cemented on what Sean Combs is actually admitting to and what his plans are in the future, because one does not make sense without the other. You can't say you want to be a domestic abuse counselor um, to sort of show other people how to live when A, you're not admitting to the things that you've done, and B, you're not trying to actively change, so says the court. And then we move on to the fact that his attorneys have been out doing the media blitz this week, and they've all been saying different things. You have Mark Agnifilio saying that, bizarrely, that Sean Combs wants to do something in Madison Square Garden in his interview with CBS News. The journalist asked him, well, what exactly is he going to be doing? And Mark Agnifilio just answers, well, he's going to be doing something. This is weird sort of, I just want to get in front of the camera and sort of make a plea for my client and just sort of say whatever I have to say to sort of represent him since he can't speak for himself. That's fine, but you should be actually saying something substantive when you're in front of the camera, Mark Agnifilio. You're not really saying anything. He's just sort of, oh, well, yeah, he wants to do something with Madison Square Garden. Well, what would that be? She goes on to ask, like, does he have plans to continue in the music industry as an artist? And he sort of says, oh, well, I know he wants to be, involved in some way. I mean, he hasn't said that, but I know he wants to be involved in some way. Then Ashley Shapiro does an interview with Long Crime where this is prior to the bail decision by Judge Submaranian, but she goes on to say that she doesn't think he's going to get a lengthy sentence, that even if he is denied, it's not indicative of a lengthy sentence. And of course, the judge is sort of begging the differ on that, especially since the buck stops with him. I would go with what his version of it is. And then finally, Miss Westmoreland, the Perry Mason attorney. Aha, I gotcha. Attorney during the trial run, she goes on CNN and says that the Combs attorneys, the defense team, has reached out to President Donald Trump, and they are in fact pursuing a pardon. And then just days later, Mark Agnifilio shoots back, and it's reported that he's saying absolutely not. That is not true. We're not going after a pardon on this. So all of this sounds like romper room. His attorneys are just running around like a chicken when their hair cut off. And now today is the most bizarre, the latest bizarre news that we've heard from the defense team. I think sometimes less is better, just like when, when someone is dressing up for an event, less is more, you know what I mean? This is just really odd behavior from a defense team who's really sort of skating on thin ice as it relates to the fact that their client is actually awaiting sentencing and really sort of at the mercy of the court, waiting for a favorable sentencing. And this particular matter, they're looking for time served. That's kind of old news. We know that about what they're seeking. But the we've not heard from the Department of Probation just yet. I think September 15th is when we'll hear from the Department of Probation about what their recommendations are. And then these attorneys, the defense and the DOJ, actually have some days after that a deadline to answer and respond to the Department of Probation and send their recommendations and responses to the judge. And then the judge, of course, will make his ruling on October 3rd, which is the sentencing date. But the DOJ was very, very clear that they're looking for a way higher sentence than this, 3 to 5 years that, most folks thought was sort of the guidelines of the sentencing ranges, or the most, intense sentencing range that the DOJ would be seeking. Jay Clayton was very clear in that 11-page response to Combs's 62-page filing, that it would be much higher than that. And part of the reason for that was because of his propensity for violence. And then also the fact that he felt he was a flight risk because of the fact that his team knows that they're looking at much higher guidelines, though they're not admitting it in their filing, and they're not admitting it in these interviews. They're still talking about this phantom fantasy 1 to 3 years that they're hoping to get for him. And also, Mark Agnifilio spoke with TMZ yesterday talking about, he's hoping to get that 1 to 3 years served in at home, which definitely will not happen. Judge Submaranian was very clear in his answer, in the bail denial answer, that part of the issue with giving Sean Combs bail was that there was no way to monitor him. And that even when he is monitored, as he's been, in lockdown for the last 11 months, he still has trouble following the rules. We talked about previously about his issues with witness tampering, utilizing other people's phone cards and numbers, inmate numbers to make phone calls to witness tamper during the trial phase of his case. And it was brought up in a motion against him by the DOJ during the trial phase that he was doing that. The judge admonished him, and his team simply said, well, everybody does it. So again, Combs's defense team they have a problem with accountability, is what they do. What they have. They have a problem with accountability as it relates to Combs. But then on the flip side of that, they want to ask for the moon and the stars when it comes to him. The two don't match. And then say, oh, well, actually, you should show leniency. This is all in the press because he wants to become a domestic abuse counselor. Well, what qualifies you, sir? Because you used to beat people up, that qualifies you? Well, it's not really used to, because you've not shown, according to Judge Submaranian, you've not shown any active positioning and change. You've not listed in that 62-page filing. Um, his team gave a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or what they plan to do, what he plans to do in the future. But nowhere in the filing do they mention what he's doing now to sort of subset this issue. We heard some sort of phantom story a few weeks before their 62-page filing that he was, entering a batterers program while he was there in the holding facility in Brooklyn. But yet we've seen nothing of that. So how does a person like this, who will not take accountability for the things that we've seen on camera, he won't take accountability for his actions that he's actually done while he's been behind bars. Um, how do we expect a person like that to be an actual abuse counselor, to talk to the youth? Your kids are actually have active cases against them for sexual assault cases against them. Your two sons, your oldest two sons, have these civil cases against them that include yourself. So I'm just trying to figure, and in the latest filing, as it relates to Christian's sexual, you again refuse to take accountability and say that the girl didn't file it in the correct jurisdiction. Not that Christian didn't do it, and not that you did not sort of provide an environment for this sort of behavior, but that it was filed in the wrong jurisdiction. There's no ownership. There's no accountability with Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs is not in any shape to lead any domestic abuse courses with any sort of legitimacy. That is, especially court mandated legitimacy. These domestic violence or domestic abuse courses are extremely serious. As a matter of fact, when people are sentenced to domestic violence classes, courses, or trainings as a result of domestic abuse or some sort of charge that they have been convicted of in the court of law, these things are court mandated and they are done by actual licensed professionals, people who work with the courts on a regular basis, who have been trained, who have gone to school, but not only gone to school, but they've actually worked in this field for many, many years. I've worked with these people when I was at the district attorney's office, victim witness programs, people who work in victim witness. These people are psychologists. These people have been trained in this. Now, that does not offset the fact that there are community members who come in and give counseling sessions, in terms of come in as they would call them, um, I guess, mentors, community mentors that come in and try to help people, speak to them on their level as it relates to this sort of thing. But Mr. Combs is not in any shape to be that person. He would just be somebody who, did their time but doesn't really think that he did anything wrong. That is according to the 62-page filing that his team just put in. They basically say in the filing that he doesn't done anything wrong. What do you mean? I'm not violent. I was provoked. Is that what you're going to be saying to the guys, the gals and guys that you would be speaking to? Because that's not going to fly. That doesn't work. It's just such a weird, bizarre intimation that he would be in any way, shape, or form legitimate and being this person. That makes no sense at all. I just, and I know a lot of people call me a hater as it relates to Sean Combs, and perhaps I am to some degree. But even if you are a plain thinking person, a person thinking with any sort of sense, you would also think, wait a minute, let me think about the filings here, because he has not once admitted to his actions. He has not once, while this court has been in the adjudication phase, he has not once said, okay, this was wrong. I need to work on that. I need to do that. Da 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 da. The court is still waiting for Mr. Combs to fall on his sword. He won't do it. He won't do it, which is the reason he's actually still behind bars, much to his chagrin. So, the I don't see how he could in any way, shape, or form be a legitimate abuse counselor. This is just really wild to me. His team is all over the place. As it relates to their messaging, there is not a one single stream of messaging that they're all following. They're all saying different things. Uh, in my opinion, they're keeping the rumor mill going. If I put on my publicist hat, I'm saying whoever the comms, the control of the crisis comms team is here, needs to wrangle everybody in and get everyone on message, because right now everyone's saying different things. And if you are hoping to put all of this out here to lay the groundwork for a potential pardoning, which is what I think is actually happening, they're sort of laying a public relations sort of groundwork for potential pardoning by utilizing his defense attorneys to lay that groundwork for them. Then you guys are failing miserably, because you guys can't stay on topic, stay on message, and you can't agree. You've got one attorney saying we've reached out to President Trump's office, and you've got another attorney shooting back just a day or so later saying, no, that isn't true. So which is it? You've got to stay on message. You've got to get on target. If that's what you're hoping to do, so it's all up in the air. I personally believe they have reached out to Donald Trump's office. I mean, I don't think President Trump would be out here giving his opinion on this particular matter unless he's heard some murmurings about it. Obviously, he's been asked in the press, and that's the reason why he sort of, gave a comment on it. But just in general, it would be far-fetched to believe that his team hasn't, you know, been given some sort of filing or some sort of clemency application from Sean Combs' team, especially now when he has no hope to get out of jail before the October 3rd hearing. So this is definitely laying good groundwork. Agnifilio coming up and saying, oh, well, no, this is not happening. We didn't do this. This is not true. That's, probably them playing a little bit of, trying to play a little bit into Combs's ego, because as we know, Combs is the boss. He's the one paying, he's the one telling them what to say, what to do, how to say it, and how to do it. And he may not have agreed with Westmoreland coming out and saying that they're asking for this, pardoning. You know what I mean? That, sort of like his life is in the balance, and Donald Trump holds his entire life in his hands, so to speak. And so that weighs on a person's ego, especially a person like Sean Combs. So I could see him shooting back and saying, Agnifilio, you need to go clean this up. And that's the reason Agnifilio came out and did it. But wherever is going on, everyone needs to get on message and on target, because they have their boy looking a little bit crazy, crazier than usual. All right, guys, we'll be back shortly. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.